Hello there. This is Jen T. Grace, founder of Publish Your Purpose, and I am here for the launch of The Joyful Leader with Nicole. How are you doing, Nicole?
I am bubbling with excitement to be here. Thank you for having me on.
I am also bubbling with excitement as we were just kind of like talking before we went live, and I have your book in front of me because I feel like we need a visual because your book looks absolutely gorgeous, and it is officially out. Your launch is officially tomorrow, and it is called The Joyful Leader: Discover Resilience Through Joy and Manage Stress to Elevate Your Leadership and Organizational Culture. Yes. Okay. So I feel like that says a lot about you already, just kind of like what you're writing about. But can you just take a minute to kind of just share a little bit high level who you are, a little about yourself, and then I'm going to just kind of ask you some questions.
Yes. So, yes, my name is Nicole Van Valen. I am an author, a published author, and a keynote speaker. I speak on joy powered performance. And my background is I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. I am a senior certified professional through SHRM and provide a lot of educational instructional design there. And what else? Background working in corporate America, specifically in healthcare for over 25 years and learning and development. So all of those things professionally encompass me that way. And of course, I have a background in dance, and that has been my joy throughout life and has evolved into other things. And we'll probably talk about that during the interview, of creating just a joy menu for myself and being able to help other people create their own joy menus. And yeah, so that's a little about my background.
I love that. Okay. So I have a whole bunch of questions that I can ask. Who knows where this will take us, because I feel like we have known each other for a while now. We've been on this journey for quite some time, not just through the publishing, which, sometimes folks are just working with us and not publishing, but in your case, it was also the writing and now the publishing. So I feel like it is such a, like, to me, it feels like such a monumental milestone when I can kind of like see, like, going back to when we met at a conference a number of years ago and just had that kind of like connection, and to be able to say, like, wow, here you are, we're both physically holding your book in hand, which is incredible. It's always an amazing feeling. And how, like, if we just kind of start at the beginning of like what your purpose is, like, what is your definition of purpose and how does that blend into what you've written?
All right. So I define my purpose as helping other people be victorious, however they define that. And actually, my name, Nicole, means victory of the people. So I've always felt deeply connected to that meaning. And just throughout my life, whether I'm like performing at the highest level, because I used to be a cheerleader for the NFL, Miami Dolphins, and or dancing on the court for the NBA court. And I have to say, I am a University of Miami Hurricane where I danced and cheered, and we're on our way to the championship, which I can't.
Nice.
I have to say, go for the U. We're gonna win. But anyway, but that background, and then later going into corporate America, and then being a part of boardrooms, I saw how easy it was for high performers and type A personality people like myself to lose themselves to the stress and the burnout that can come from that. And and I also know what it's like to be driven and being capable and just running on empty, and you just keep going and going and going, and the fuel runs out. So this work and this book comes from a real place that I went through, and I wrote The Joyful Leader so that leaders just would not have to reach that point of depletion that I went through, and to realize that they can have a change, and they can go through this change in a more purposeful and a more joyful way. And when they do that for themselves, then they're able to lead people better, and they're able to perform better, and they're able to live their lives in a way where they can succeed, but they're not sacrificing their well-being. And the key to that fuel was joy for myself. And I just want to spread that joy movement. So that's where my passion and drive comes from with writing this book.
How did you land on joy in the first place? Like, is there like a certain period in time that you can kind of like go back to be like, oh, I was age whatever, and I realized that joy was somehow leading me?
I think back to growing up, I always had this uncontrollable laughter.
Mhm.
And if I found something funny, like I would laugh and I couldn't stop. And just my parents knew that that was a thing that I went through. So I remember in sixth grade, there was Mr. Siegel. He taught civics class and he would always tell jokes, like dad jokes. And I would crack up hysterical. I couldn't stop. He'd kick me out, told me to come back when I calmed down. I'd come back in the room, see his face, and just burst out laughing. I'd
Mhm.
walk myself out. Like that was the beginning of joy for myself. And this continued on in throughout my life. And even in corporate America, I would start meetings with
Mhm.
C-suite leaders with a dad joke. And it was strategic. Like it was fun and we had a good time. We laughed, but it was also strategic. And I would tell a joke and then I would talk about why it's important for whatever, like the joke, I would do a joke about an octopus and just talk about not being in silos, like the different tentacles meaning silos, and
Mhm.
how we can be the whole octopus. Now I feel like I need to tell you what the joke is. Do you want to hear the joke?
I feel like we need to, for sure.
All right, and I tell this in my keynote too. Okay, how many tickles does it take to make an octopus laugh?
No idea.
Tentacles, like tentacles,
Okay,
tentacles.
very, very dad jokey of you. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
So I would say that we're not silos, like different tentacles
Yeah.
or coming together to be the whole octopus and all of this great stuff. So then I was known for giving jokes, and then people would send me jokes, and it would be perfect timing. And then I could use the joke in the next meeting. And of course, with the joyful leader, each chapter starts off with a dad joke at the top. Instead of like an inspiring quote, we have the various dad jokes. So um, that's kind of, with writing the book, it's because I want to spread this joy and I've always had it. And it's something that's internal
Mhm.
that you can control. Because we talked about before, there's things that are going on in the world that you can't control, but
Yeah.
there's things that you can. And the joy is something that you can control. And it's something internal from the inside out.
Yeah.
And that place where I understood what joy really was and how it's different from happiness that's fleeting was
Mhm.
through my spiritual growth. And in the book, I talk about spiritual resilience in there. And that's where I really learned what joy was. And then I began to embody joy. And then there's so much more that you can learn about joy, and you can kind of elevate yourself beyond joy. And I
Mhm.
talk about it in the book too. And that's what the phoenix means. Like
Mhm.
it's golden, but they're colors of the wings. And in the beginning of the book, I talk about the different meanings of the colors based on different experiences that you go through in life, and joy is a part of that journey and path as you're elevating yourself in your life and your growth and your work and all of those things.
Mhm. I love this. And so we're, this is through the lens of kind of leaders and leadership and organizational culture and things like that. Is this, could somebody pick this up even if they don't really consider themselves to be a leader? Is this still something that would resonate with someone?
I believe everyone is a leader. Like we're a leader of ourselves.
Mhm.
Whether you are in corporate America, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you are a stay at home mom or dad, whether you are a child or a young adult, whatever age you are a leader of yourself.
Mhm.
And as we grow and as we develop, we are shaping the journey and the choices that we make in life.
Mhm.
So I would always tell my daughter, make whatever choices that you want to make, but we have to deal with the consequences of those choices.
Mhm.
And why not embody and embed joy in the decisions that you're making? Whether it's in corporate America, in business, or in your personal life.
Mhm. And is there something, so if someone's watching this and they're like, all right, mm, yes, I'm a leader. I need to go check out Nicole's book. Or actually, now that she says it that way, I'm the leader of myself. At the very least, I'm going to go check out the book. For someone else who's just kind of like sitting there, maybe they're on the fence, is there something that you would tell someone when it comes to joy and how to embody that joy? Because I think we live in a very trying time right now. Not to say that trying times have not always been around for as long as we've been alive, but like right now, it seems like things are heated in a lot of different directions. And there are a lot of things that we cannot control. But what we can control is our emotions and our reactions to things. So is there something in relation to joy and leadership that might be just one small simple thing that someone like in this moment right now might be able to do?
Yes. I mean, it could be something so simple. And it is, for me, figuring out what it is that you want to put on your joy menu.
Mm.
So, thinking about what is it that you really enjoy in life. And this could be a difficult question for people because of the climate that we're living in right now. So, a lot of times I would tell people, okay, think about something that you did that you enjoyed doing when you were little. Like,
Mhm.
what's one thing that you liked when you were younger?
Yeah.
And I remember I was at a leadership retreat, and the CEO said, you know what? I enjoy art.
Mhm.
So does my daughter. I'm going to take us to art classes. And she was able to do that. And then when I checked in with her later on, because she decided to focus on things that bring her joy, she
Mhm.
realized that she was giving too much time to work and not enough to family. And
Mhm.
she restructured things. She hired a layer of people in
Mhm.
her organization so that she could delegate more and then she could have a more well-rounded life. Now, not every one of us has a business where we can hire a layer of VPs
Sure. Yeah.
across, but we can do what she did, was take a
Mhm.
moment, take a pause and figure out or think about what is it that you really enjoy doing.
Mhm.
And not only think about it, go put it on your calendar and actually do it. And what we find is the things that we feel like we don't have enough time for is
Mhm.
the thing that we should actually be doing. And
Mhm.
then once you do it, magically you have more space and time when you come back into your work environment or your home environment because you're refreshed or
Yeah.
you're renewed. You're looking at the challenges or the changes in your life a little bit differently
Mhm.
because you're now in the phoenix mode of thinking
Mhm.
and not in that depletion mode of thinking. So that's kind of what that's about. So anyone can do this. It's
Mhm.
just a matter of when you're in that depleting moment, you can't even figure out what to do. So
Yeah.
why not create a joy menu, be proactive, and then when you're like, okay, I only have 5 minutes to get myself together, I'm going to do some deep breathing and take 3 deep breaths. Or I
Yeah.
have 15 minutes. I'm going to go take a walk, or, I'll walk our dog Layla around the block. Or if I have a half an hour, I'm going to really take my lunch
Yeah.
away from the computer and actually chew my food, feel the sensations of it, swallow it,
Mhm.
not like gulp it down and rush back to the computer. Like, it's
Yeah.
actually taking care of yourself. And everyone has different things that they like to do. So I like drinking hot cup of chai tea.
Mhm.
Someone else might like coffee. You
Mhm.
can't really delegate what that joy is because
Yeah.
it's individual for each person.
Yeah. And it's probably just like having self-awareness and
Mm,
experimenting, right? Like I
yeah.
know for me, like I'm not a coffee drinker. I'm like I'll drink tea, but it's not really my thing. But I love kombucha. And so
Ooh,
like that's like my afternoon treat to myself is kombucha. And it's like, it's just such a tiny little thing, but I'm like, it genuinely feels like it brings me joy where I'm like, oh, it's my little treat. And like I'm drinking it at
yeah,
my desk, but it's just like a little like, oh, I'm looking forward to my kombucha.
I
So
know.
good.
So here's my big
That
cup of
is that
tea
is like
I
a
keep
bowl.
at my desk. And I love what you said about your treat. It's kind of like this dessert first mentality.
Mm.
Because growing up, my mom always let us eat dessert first, and it's
Oh,
awesome. So many times I'll go to a restaurant, I'll order dessert first, and people are like, "What's wrong with you?" And I'm like, "This is normal for me." So
um,
it's kind of like giving yourself that treat, giving yourself that joy first,
mhm.
and then it propels and fuels you to do what you need to do to work together with your team and then to go and deliver on your goals versus the old way is like, drive yourself till you're burnt out, do all of this miserably, get it done, meet your goal, and then reward yourself afterwards. But by that time, you're so tired, you can't even enjoy whatever reward you're trying to give yourself then.
Yeah. And at that point, you can't even think through what is actually going to create joy or bring joy in your life. And so I think that that's also the piece because it's almost like And I'm wondering, like, based on your therapist background, I feel like you must have a lot of insights in terms of like how people, like in terms of like if you're kind of in a fight or flight, or your nervous system is just kind of continually
Mhm.
hijacked, it's hard to kind of like see the future and think ahead and like really understand like what could actually help make you feel better. Because in the moment, it's like your body just even doesn't even want to cooperate. So sometimes
Exactly.
it takes a while.
It does. And I found myself going through the process of writing this book and going through all the great things that your organization does. I actually had to use my model. Like I had to use my ready set go model
Hmm.
several times a day because going through this process it takes like diligence and practice and determination and follow through and all
Mm,
of these things to get to your goal,
yeah.
so that you can go and deliver on it. I would have to use that model. Like I would have to I'd have to first realize that I was feeling like stressed
Mhm.
and whatever I'm feeling in my body at that time may not feel so good. So let me just take a look at that
Yeah.
and then allow myself to actually get up, take a break from writing, and
Mhm.
go do that thing that's on my joy menu. And a lot of times that was because, I'm a little older now, so it's not always dancing. So I
Yeah.
would actually go back in the backyard and literally smell the roses back there because I have roses that I picked specifically that smell really good and that makes me feel happy. So I
Mhm.
would go and do that and I would come back to the desk more joyful, more innovative, more creative,
Yeah.
to be of service through the book.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, to me, that's kind of like the action item for people is like figure out like what's on your joy menu, right? Like
Mhm.
just start to explore and experiment because what might bring you joy today, maybe in 6 months it won't bring you joy, but it's that
Right.
awareness and that constant kind of going back to and focusing and putting energy into that positive direction versus the doom and gloom, which is very easy to fall into in our current society.
And also, I wanted to add not only does it make us feel better, but it helps us influence things differently
Mm.
when we're
Yeah.
interacting with other people. So it's
Mhm.
not just a feel good thing. It's actually joy is a strategy. It's a
Mhm.
strategy of how we live our life, how we show up at work, how we, parent our kids or
Mhm.
connect with our extended family. We lead ourselves differently. And what
Yeah.
happens is we have this sustainable performance, what I call joy power performance. That's where it comes from, this internal joy that we are being intentional about and making it a deliberate part of our life.
It almost reminds me of, like, the law of attraction,
Mm.
right? Where, like, the more positive you're putting out, the more positive you receive. The more negative you put out, the more negative you receive, right? So it feels similar to that,
Mhm.
where it does become a guiding principle and becomes kind of like your North Star in terms of, like, how you show up. Because I can even think about like, we've been working together for years at this point. So, like, it's been a minute because, like, we worked through the writing together as well. And
Yes.
there were absolutely many times, like you were saying, you had to like lean into your model where like this process isn't always easy. It is not always fun. And it really challenges us to the core of our being a lot of times, regardless if we're working with a team, doing it by ourselves, however we're getting it done, it really challenges our belief systems in like really sometimes painful ways.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I feel like you live your model though, because even though you were like working with your own model, like even in those moments where things aren't going exactly how they're supposed to be going, or you might be feeling defeated, or you're feeling excited and positive, like either way, it's like you were still always a joyful person throughout all of that. And I feel like that's really hard to kind of like walk the walk and talk the talk. Because I kind of like said that, like you have been an absolute joy to work with from start to finish, even in those moments where things are not going as smoothly as all of us want them to.
Oh, well, I really appreciate that. And sometimes you don't see how you are
Mhm.
when you're going through a process. And this is one of the benefits of working with PYP and working with you and your team was that this process really helped me shape my ideas
Mm.
and kind of like look at the experiences and the frameworks developed from my years in working in family therapy or training and development, um, in a way that people could access it and a way that they can apply it. it wasn't just, oh, these are my experiences here and these are my thoughts here. Cause that's what I brought. Like, Jen, let me just show you. This is what I brought to the table. Like my experiences on cards, trying to figure out how do I get through my evaluation at work? How do I talk to my manager? How do I interview and talk about my greatest weaknesses? I had all of this stuff, and being able to bring it to you and say, okay, here's my content and everything, and throwing it, and then somehow going through that whole editing process and creating an outline and putting all the content in there, and then, pointing to where stories and experiences can go through so that it can help the reader understand all of the kind of like messiness of writing.
Back to this, right? Like you're holding a stack of cards, and like this is the end result. Like I want people to like see that, like just that visual alone is gold, because it really is like the author journey summarized in one photo.
Yeah. So I mean, so that whole thing is, and then on top of the whole thing, because I got to work with so many different people on your team, and they touch different parts of the book during different parts of the process. And what really stood out is that they shared how the content in my book as it was being developed was positively impacting them in the moment, like both personally and professionally. And when that happened, especially with working with the editor, that was like that moment when I realized that we had something really meaningful here. Like we're developing something. It's not only my story anymore. Like this was work that could genuinely help people, and it could really bring them joy, and they can implement it into their lives, and they have a whole guide of how to do it. And they don't have to do it the way I did it. It'll be a lot easier for them. But we put in the work together so that we can bring this to the world and make life more joyful.
Yeah. And the fact that you had that validated to you before the book even came out goes back to how you define your purpose and why you wrote the book. So it's awesome that it's like already come full circle in terms of just what your intention was behind it. And I do want to spend a minute talking about your cover and the intentionality behind the Phoenix, because you started to kind of talk about the Phoenix and like the different colors, but it was in terms of a process to get to finally land on this Phoenix. But your cover, I think, is absolutely gorgeous. I think it came out so good. And so I think it's another one of those kind of like behind the scenes looks for someone who's maybe they have no interest in writing a book, but they're just a fan of yours. And just to know, like, sometimes such a detail takes so long to get to an end result of. So do you want to just share a little bit about the Phoenix and like what your vision was for it? Because like it took a minute, but it was worth every extra minute it took to get here.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest powerful moments was coming up with this cover design. And I'm still so grateful that you see me as a joyful person during this process, because I kept like coming back and going, oh, well, this is good, but not quite. And then I went through so many trying to describe something that's visible in your head to another person, another human being that has the skill and talent to put it on paper or put it on a cover of a book is a process, like, so the Phoenix is like, it represents like the ready, set, go framework with the go part. Like this is when you get to that go and it's like delivering on the vision that you had in your head, and it's actually happening. So it's a golden Phoenix, and that represents beyond joy, and it represents resilience. It represents like this renewal of and elevating, right? And like I said, in the opening pages of the book, I explain the meaning of the colors of the wings, and it it symbolizes the various colors are all the different emotions that we feel when we're going through different experiences, from like rage all the way up to beyond bliss. And then even the background of the book is black, and that symbolizes unconditional love when you're, expanding out into the universe. So it's like you are this golden phoenix because of the experiences that have shaped you and the choices that you make. And the elevation actually starts at a place of joy. And that's like the color of green. And then the more that you are infusing joy from the inside out, and opening yourself up to be able to expand and grow yourself, then you get to a place of bliss and beyond bliss, and then you're just completely elevating yourself and expanding and growing. So this phoenix is like a dancing phoenix, because it's like you're flowing, you're in that flow state, you're moving. That's like when you are doing something that you really enjoy, and like time stands still, and you are just in your own like little bubble, a little sphere, and you feel protected, but you feel expanded. And it's just this amazing feeling that you can get when you're in the zone. Like I think of a race car driver, and when they hit that zone, like if you watch Formula One, or if you're like a cross country runner, there's a point when you hit in that running, and you're always like, how can they run for so long? I would be exhausted. But they hit a stride, and then they're in a zone, and they can run for miles and miles and miles. That's what this phoenix represents. It's like a dance. It's like your evolution, your growth through your experiences in life, whether you perceive them as negative or whether you perceive them as positive. And then you look back on those experiences, and they become like a smoothie. Like, when you put fruit together, and that's yummy, yummy. And then there's the vegetables, and they can be kind of sour, and then you don't really like them, but then you blend them in a smoothie and you drink it, and you're like, this is great, and it's good for me. I'm going to have some more. So that's kind of like our experiences. And what happens is that smoothie is like that phoenix. It encompasses everything. And it reflects who you are at your core. And what's so cool is when people see this phoenix, which I was so nervous about putting on the cover, and they see the title of The Joyful Leader, this imagery, it resonates across industries, like, across backgrounds, and leaders. Like, I didn't think leaders would take me seriously with this, but they love it. And what it's doing, and we were talking about it before, it becomes something that connects people. And it's connecting people across various levels. And what happens is there's this feeling of authenticity, and it embraces both this vulnerability and it's deeply affirming at the same time, because nowadays people want what's real. And they want leaders that are vulnerable. And I'm not saying like spread everything out there. I'm like, be professionally vulnerable, but they want people to be their true selves. And like, this was my beginning of reintroducing or rebirthing myself into this world as an author, to be able to hold this book up and be like, that's me, I'm a joyful leader. And my goal is I want everybody else to be like, that's me, I'm a joyful leader, but their joy is going to look different than mine. Like, they may not have they might not be dancing around or singing karaoke badly or the things that I like to do. They're going to be doing something else that brings them to life.
Yeah. And if we look at organizational change and culture shift, having people coming more embodied in themselves from a joyful standpoint will just make everybody better and more powerful, because there's less of that lower vibration energy being put into the workplace.
And I wanted to talk about this process that you have. Because it's so cool, because I had to really, deal with my different emotions like we talked about before. And I know, and I had my framework and I had my process to get through things, but I also was able to trust your process and trust the experts that were around me, and do that while staying true to my own vision. Like, how amazing is that? to be surrounded, not feel like you're alone, because writing can feel lonely.
Mhm.
Um, and I could still trust my gut and intuition, and we can have these conversations about it. Because I know you're like, okay, after the whatever iteration of this cover, and she's still coming back to me. And it was funny. I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna give up. Not give up, but just be like, this is good enough. And I was actually at a spiritual retreat.
Mhm.
And after I got out of that retreat, I was like, we need one more go.
Mhm.
Like after Lisa described me and as like a dancing phoenix, and she helped with like the visual idea of it. I was like, I gotta go back to Jen and say, and Jen's probably like, oh my gosh, when are we ever gonna do this book? But I was like, okay, one more go. And then for you to say and hold the book and talk about the visual, it
Mhm.
just totally warms my heart and
Yeah.
um lets me know that working with you, it gives authors permission to
Mm.
stay diligent, um,
Yeah.
to trust their intuition, but at the same time, trust the process and the experts along the way.
Mhm.
And then I just felt like I wasn't alone, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so that was the support piece for me.
Yeah, and I think that's hard for people to find that balance of being able to trust someone else and trust yourself at the same time when those things are not necessarily kind of like blending as easily in that smoothie as they should in the moment. But I think it all comes back to good communication and coming
Mhm.
back to, because like if you come to the table and you're all hostile about it, then it's going to be, it's going to bring all the vibration down. It's going to be a little bit harder to kind of like figure out what's the solution. But if you're like, like one more time, like we can do this, we can, because we're both like, we can, it was like your cheerleading skills were coming and we're like, we can do this, like we know this, like we are capable. And it took a little bit of time, but the beautiful thing is that you are so proud of this and it looks so good versus having something that you feel is like, it's okay. Like, I don't want anyone to be like, it's okay. Like, that's like, I want you to love it. Even if I didn't, like, I happen to love yours, but even if there's a cover that we've done that I don't love, as long as you love it, that's the most important part, because then it makes it easier for you to promote and talk about it because you feel all of your confidence behind it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
for
it's
sure.
so important. Oh, this has been a process, as all books are, and I love that we kind of like got into the weeds a little bit more, because I think it's always important for aspiring authors to kind of see, like, when someone goes and picks up your book, to like just know the amount of like thought that goes into every single book published, regardless of who does it, how they do it, where they did it. There's so much thought that goes into putting a book out into the world, and it's not always an easy task, which is why not everyone finishes the crosses the finish line of wanting to do it.
Yeah, and for me too, it was like I took my whole entire being, like my whole self, like my whole life, and poured it into this book.
Yeah.
So, and that left me at this vulnerable place.
Mm.
And I was vulnerable, but I was also in a safe place. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? At the same
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
so that I could get to the finish line. Like we did the whole framework, Jen. Like we did the ready,
The
we,
whole thing.
we did the set, and now we're flying. Like we're going. The Phoenix is taking off.
Yeah, the phoenix has permission to rise, and now is the time. And 2026 is a great year for this to be launching. As we're kind of like coming to the end, what is something, like if you were to wave a magic wand and we are 6 months from now, a year from now, 10 years from now, whatever the length is, and someone comes up to you at a conference or at an event that you're keynoting, and they're like, oh my God, Nicole, I read your book, and what are you hoping the last part of that sentence is? What are they saying to you?
They say, Nicole, I read your book and it has transformed my life.
Mm.
And so they say that, but then they tell me how it's transformed their life.
Mhm.
Um, that's what this is all about. It's like
Mhm.
transformation.
Yeah.
And I feel like if we are able to transform and elevate our lives, and people see it and witness it, and then they take the courage to transform their own lives. And it has this rippling, compounding effect, and it builds a joy movement.
Yeah.
And then it could just go from there. Like it's systemic. So it's like each of the individual parts, or each person that I talk to or connects with this book, it becomes systemic and it becomes bigger than the individual parts. And that's like that connection we were talking about before.
Yeah.
So that's the goal. That's the goal, is transformation.
I love that. I feel like I share a similar goal in terms of like the transformation, and then like having conversations with you and getting to the end of a process. It's like, yes, like my goal is accomplished and realized because your goal is accomplished and realized. Like there's something so like meta about that, and also just so like brilliant and amazing that it's like, okay, we are all accomplishing what we set out to do in this moment, and that feels really good. I really really love that.
Yeah, and it's like, Jen, it's already happening. Like it's happening. I can't believe it. I mean, my family took me out to dinner to celebrate the launch, right?
Great.
And one of the most meaningful moments that came out of that was, the waiter was like, "Oh, I heard you published a book." And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "What is it? What is it about?" And I tell him the title, and I'm like, "Overcoming Stress and Burnout." And he's like, "You know what? We could use that here. Where can I buy it?" And he pulls out his phone and he starts looking for it. And like, you can actually find it. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is so cool." Like my whole nerd self starts coming out.
Yeah.
And we end up exchanging information. And then he talks about me potentially coming to speak there. Jen, do you know where I was? This restaurant is called Mass. It is the first and only Michelin star restaurant in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, where I live, right? I'm like, what? So it kind of just reminds me that this work really does create this connection in unexpected places, and like this magic just shows up when we least expected it. Like I wasn't thinking that this conversation would happen, and that this book that I was nervous about the title and all that oh, it's upside down. The title and everything would open doors to actually help me do what I've always wanted to do, which is to help people and help leaders become their best selves through joy-powered performance. Like it's already starting. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Really?
It's amazing. And you know what you just proved without even meaning to, is that when you show up fully yourself and authentically aligned with your words and your mission, the promotion of your book can feel effortless. So many people feel like it is such a slog to promote and market their book, and they have to drag the book behind them and they have to do all these uncomfortable things. But you're celebrating with family over an incredible dinner, and something magical happened because you were yourself and you were there alongside with your book. Like sometimes it can be as simple and beautiful and aligned as that.
Yeah, I'm glad you said it that way, because my young adult kids, they don't think that way. They're like, silly, silly mom, just talking to everyone and taking pictures and all that stuff. And I always joke, I'm like, fine, I'll be boring mommy. And they're like, no.
No, they don't want boring mom.
Yeah, being able to be my authentic self with something that's so important for us, especially like you said, in today's day and age, it's just like icing on the cake.
Yep. What a beautiful way to kind of conclude this conversation. I love that you're already having like the taste of what it feels like to make a bigger impact and transformation.
Yeah.
Oh, so good. All right. So we have your website scrolling along the bottom of the screen. So if anyone's watching, they can see keeninsights.com. Is there anywhere else that you would like to direct people to watch anything, see anything, get your book, etc.?
Yes. So I also am creating, which will be coming out in a day or so, or it'll be out when you see this. NicoleVanValen.com is a website specifically for my speaking engagements. So that's another avenue to find me there. I'm always on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, all of those social media platforms as well. So I would say LinkedIn, you'll definitely get me. So connect with me there. I love to see your comments, to see, if any of this resonated with you, and you can connect with me directly there as well. Or however you want to reach out to me. I want to talk to you. I want to figure out like how you are joyful in your life, what's working for you. And also, I wanted to share, when you go to my website, there is an assessment. It's called the Sphere of Resilience Assessment. It is a gift for you to have. It's complimentary, and it just helps you understand, where your strengths are, where you can support other people, where your gaps could be, where you might want some additional support so that you can get yourself in the joy zone. So that's a gift for you that you can get to from the Keen Insights website. Just look under resources and take my assessment. So I encourage you to do that, and you get some goodies from there.
I love it. Thank you so much, Nicole. I cannot wait to see what this book does in the world, because it's already started and there's no stopping you. So I'm excited to see what happens next.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you for your support.
Yeah, thank you. And I will talk to you very, very soon. Thanks, Nicole.